Everyone. Good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to the webinar called Transactional Analytics Delivers Great Visibility with End-to-End Monitoring. The whole apppulse portfolio continues to evolve and grow. This particular one is on apppulse Trace, and just wanted to make sure you're on the right webinar. It's brought to you by Hewlett-Packard Enterprise and Vivid, and my name is Jim Copio. I work at a partner company called Whitlock, and I'm also a Carolinas chapter leader over for the Vivid organization, as well as a BSM SIG leader. Let's move on to the speakers. We have three that are going to contribute to this 1 hour, and we'll start with Eric Odell. Eric is the apppulse Senior Product Marketing Manager, and he's going to set the table and kind of get into the big picture around apppulse Trace. And then Dan Ooster is the APM Senior Technical Marketing Manager. And of course, Udi Shigal is the apppulse Product Manager for HPE. So this particular webinar is going to be a combination of some great slides and great discussions. We're going to have a demo as well of the product, and then we're going to have a chance for you to ask questions. So it's going to be hopefully interactive. So if we can move to the housekeeping slide. For those who have never seen this before, there is a panel on the upper right-hand side, most likely, and that's a chance for you to capture a question pane and type in your questions as you come up with them. And then press submit, and they're going to go into a queue. And at the end of the webinar, towards the end, we're going to take all those questions, and one of the panelists will certainly provide answers. Okay, it's pretty self-explicit. Now, I will jump in later when we do the surveys and the questions, etc. But I'm gonna just turn this over to Eric, I believe, and he's going to kick right into the topic. So good luck and enjoy the webinar.
Well, thank you, Jim, and welcome everyone to this webcast. Stop Flying Blind. Transactional Analytics delivers greater visibility with end-to-end monitoring. So in this session, you're going to see how to use transactional analytics together with real user and synthetic monitoring to achieve greater visibility into your user's digital experience. So today's impatient, intolerant user is quick to abandon slow-performing, crashing, and error-prone apps. So it's up to application teams to quickly isolate issues and understand what went wrong, and then to know how to fix it fast. Now, later in this show, my colleagues Udi Shigal and Dan Ooster will present to you the architecture for HPE apppulse Trace, and then demonstrate how it cuts through the complexity of isolating transaction performance issues. We're going to show you how to correlate performance issues from the user action to server code execution and diagnose issues down to the line of code and log messages. And during Dan's demo, you're going to learn how to quickly drill down to server-side transactions for rapid investigation of performance bottlenecks. We'll also take a look at how to trace transactions from the browser or mobile app all the way to the back end, and then also to trace all aspects of transaction execution, including the end-to-end flow, code timing, contextual logs, exceptions, and database queries. So why don't we get going? I want to introduce to you my iPhone. I travel quite frequently for Hewlett-Packard Enterprise, so I collect an arsenal of travel apps that assist me with everything from booking flights with my airline, to hailing a cab, to looking up train schedules. Now, because I travel so frequently, I even have applications that'll calculate my frequent flyer miles, calculate currency conversion, translate languages, and even calculate the tip I want to give to my waiter. So some of these applications are handy to have on a trip, whereas others are mission critical. So if you open up my airline application, you can see how vital this application can be to someone who is a frequent traveler. It gives me a countdown for boarding time, lets me know if my flight is on time, and even if my gate has changed. And without having to call customer service, I can change my seats, request an upgrade to first class, check in, and also get my boarding pass. Now, this is the kind of application that empowers me, lets me feel in control. And it helps me manage my time and my comfort while I'm traveling. But it doesn't take much for all of that good karma to go by the wayside. All it takes is one error message like this one, an internal error 500, server not responding. And that great travel experience turns into a nightmare. And suddenly, I'm not able to check in and access my boarding pass or request my upgrade. And that 500 internal server error, it can cost a company quite a bit of brand credibility, if not worse. So poor application performance and crashes cost millions of dollars to businesses globally. Yet recent surveys show that only 26% of application teams will proactively examine user experience metrics in production, and 72% of app teams first learn of UX issues only through customer complaints. Take a look at this article reported in City AM just a few weeks ago. The website of British Airways went down for more than an hour, leaving people unable to book flights or check in, and much less even check flight times for arrivals and departures. Anyone going to BritishAirways.com or BA.com was met with an internal server error message, while anyone using Google to search for flights was also greeted with a message after choosing British Airways flights which read, "An error occurred while processing your request." So imagine the potential revenue and brand credibility was lost in that 1 hour. How annoying can an internal server error be to the average user? I'm going to give you an example. Here are a few of the reactions posted on a site that I found called "Is the Website Down?" shortly after an American Airlines app experienced various internal server errors over the last 2 months. 2 days ago, one customer wrote, "I've been unable to open American Airlines webpage for 24 hours. Back in March, another customer in frustration posted the internal server error message on his screen that read, "Our system is having trouble. Please try again." And this one's the crowning one. Just last week, a post came from a customer who noted, "American Airlines just lost a sale from me last week because of this. Today, I'm just trying to find out when my husband's plane will arrive." So American Airlines lost brand credibility, revenue, and customer loyalty, all because of an internal server error. How widespread is this? Computer Weekly reports the findings of a new UK survey revealing that a huge percentage of organizations have inadequate processes and procedures in place for performing monitoring and testing new applications. The survey included responses from 100 IT directors. Only 1 in 10 businesses have the necessary performance monitoring in place. So the article warns that the majority of organizations are leaving themselves exposed to poor application performance or even application failure when they go live with new applications. And the cost is huge to these enterprises who choose to ignore best practices in monitoring and testing. A third of the organizations in the survey admitted that the impact of poor application performance is costing them over £1 million per year. 15% reported that poor app performance was costing them £2 million per year. So this begs the question, is user experience the new SLA standard that businesses should be measuring success by? Is user experience the new SLA? Today's user expectations are sky high, and people expect to get whatever they want immediately, regardless of their choice of technology, location, or context, regardless of whether they're using a web app, a mobile app, a desktop app, or a mission-critical application at work. And if they don't get what they expect, there will be hell to pay. The recent app usage and abandonment study, sponsored by Hewlett-Packard Enterprise, shows that a subpar user experience affects not only the success of the app itself, but also the brand and the business. When a mobile app runs slowly, nearly half will uninstall the app, and a third will look for an alternative elsewhere. If an application is problematic, 80% will abandon it after 3 attempts or fewer. And almost 2/3 say app issues give them a lower opinion of the company that created the application. More than half of mobile app users surveyed said they will hold the application accountable for poor performance, not the network, not the device. Face it, a lousy user experience doesn't just kill your app, it kills your brand, kills your business. They blame the app, they turn into haters, and they take it out on your company. So you basically have to give users a great experience, or what? They're going to give you the finger. So this is part of the same survey. We found that 49% will expect a mobile app to respond in 2 seconds or less. And here's one for you. More than a third of the people using these applications will stop using it because of heavy battery usage. And over half are going to uninstall and remove the application when it stops responding or crashes. So your company has very few opportunities to enter the spotlight on the world stage, very few opportunities to influence the market. And you can relish in the times when your organization is sharing new innovations and you're in the spotlight for revolutionizing your industry. So then there are other times when your organization enters the spotlight where you begin to lose momentum and revenue. And here's a recent article in The Independent. YouTube was down. Users shown the 500 internal server error while trying to access Google's video sharing site. When heading to the youtube.com for the new service called Red, users were presented with this 500 internal server error warning. And to make matters worse for the company, the 500 internal server error message tried to make a joke of it with a long message that read, "A team of highly trained monkeys has been dispatched to deal with this situation," and that followed along with a very long string of text. So this was not a good day in the spotlight for YouTube Red. I absolutely love the comment from the person who tweeted on this. He said, "YouTube is down? Oof." So that's the kind of spotlight that companies really do want to avoid. So is a bad user experience, it's not really a joking matter to your customers. And it really is no longer an option for an organization as to whether or not they should be tracking and managing the digital user experience. Here are some things to consider. Does your organization lack visibility into the real customer experience? If you have ineffective detection and isolation of back-end problems using traditional monitoring tools, will you be able to avoid customer attrition? After all, the tools might indicate that everything is within SLAs, but the users may still be experiencing problems. Your monitoring tools could be collecting too much data that could be hard to use and expensive to maintain. Another consideration is, are you able to find the root cause quickly and reduce the mean time to repair? Maybe your monitoring tools aren't effective for highly distributed and dynamic architectures and methodologies, including microservices, Docker, Agile, and DevOps. And you might have an inability to trace a user transaction from mobile or web into the back-end tiers. In the end, you're investing expensive development resources on troubleshooting application problems instead of innovating and creating value for your business. All this results in lost revenue, customer attrition due to poor web user experience, and damaged brand reputation. It takes a long time to fix the business, and impacting the problems originating from the server side. So we have to ask ourselves, do we have the right tools? Hewlett-Packard Enterprise commissioned a survey with Dimensional Research called the DevOps APM and the User Experience Survey. What we found was that many DevOps teams understand the importance of prioritizing the user experience. All too often they don't have the tools they need to deliver a superior experience. More than half of the application teams lack an application performance monitoring solution that features user experience dashboards. More than 2/3 lack insight into the line of code that's causing the error, the slow performance, or the crash. And 2/3 more lack the end visibility that measures everything from the user action all the way to the server side. So the biggest problem is that traditional applications
Eric, if you can hear us, we've lost your audio. One of the other panelists, are you in the room with Eric? Can you let him know that we've lost his audio?
Yeah, we just talked to Eric. He's aware. Can you hear me, by the way? Just want to make sure that I can.
Yep,
okay.
Yep.
I thought Eric was just trying to give an example of user experience.
He hasn't lost internet because we can see his slides.
Okay. Well, to everyone,
He's dialing back in.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I know Eric. Eric has a couple, 3 more slides, and we're going to roll into our first polling question. So just to give you a heads up on that.
Dan or Udi, would you like to take the poll question now?
Yeah, definitely. Let's go for the first poll question.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead, Jim, and start that for the audience.
Okay. Okay, everyone should see on their screen the first poll question, and it's a pretty quick one. Are you using some sort of diagnostics in production? And it's a simple yes or no. So we'll give you, 10, 15 seconds to click on the appropriate radio button, and we'll give you an update on the answers. Give you a little more time. Okay, so we're going to cut it off there, and we do have 65% saying yes, that they do use some sort of diagnostics in production, and 35% say no, we do not use that. And that was based on a little over 70% of the audience actually participating, so pretty good. So I don't know if the panelists have any comments. Does that sound like the norm, or for that 65% yes and 35% no? Any comments?
So yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Woody.
Thanks, I'm sorry. So it's definitely typical. So we have a lot of customers who deploy, and when we say here diagnostics, we're referring to tools that allow you to better understand transactions flowing through your production system in order to troubleshoot it in case you have any performance or availability issues. And while this is not a new technology per se, it's still not as common for all customers to actually deploy it in production. We have customers who are using it in pre-production, in staging environments, but not in production. But definitely the majority of the customer base of ours, at least, is really recognizing that there is a strong need to understand what real users are experiencing, and the only way to do that is to actually have that in production and to connect the user experience aspects with the back-end diagnostics aspects.
Thank you. Thank you, Woody.
Dan, did you want to add anything?
I kind of wanted to agree with you. I mean, we've seen those things actually used in a lot of the DevOps, everything from testing in stages, and a lot of the testing that's used on, a lot of the diagnostics that are used on the testing side have then also moved into the production side. So.
Okay, Terry, do we have a second polling question by chance?
Yep, we sure do. I can go to the second poll. And Dan, let me know if I should bring up the slides. It looks like we've lost his internet now as well. But let's go to the second poll. Here you go, Jim.
Okay, hopefully everybody can see this, but it says, what are the most used technologies in your products? And check all that apply. So when you'll have 5 choices to check: Java, .NET, PHP, Python, and other. So we'll give you 10 seconds or so.
And maybe just a clarification comment, we refer to any technologies used by your organization for providing applications or services.
Thank you. Okay, we've got about 60% voted in, so we're going to wrap it up, and I'll read the answers to the question, what are the most used technologies in your products? Okay, so we have Java at 95%, and .NET at 62%, PHP at 14%, Python at 23%, and 32% for other. So again, back to the panelists, if there's any commentary on any surprises here or pretty much what's expected.
Definitely, aligned with what we hear from customers. I think the The way Java is represented here is really what we see, again, within our customers. It's a very common technology, and again, none of them use Java as the base technology or the kind of the technology for their services and applications. But almost everyone has some Java server running supporting services somewhere. The one surprise there is kind of Python versus PHP. As we know, PHP is a very common technology. We see it's again more used for kind of retail and e-commerce websites, but it's actually a lot of customers don't even know that they're using PHP. But definitely, it's aligned with our current understanding of the market. But thank you for the answers and your feedback.
Okay, thank you. Well, Eric is still having some technical difficulty. So what we're going to do, Udi, is move on to your section, slide 23 through 26. And
sure. Actually, maybe we'll switch just to give some context. We can go to slide 19. That's okay.
Okay. Please proceed.
Okay, is that where you want it, Udi?
Yes. Thank you. Okay, let me take it from here. Thank you, and apologies for technical difficulties. So Eric covered with a really nice example, or a set of examples, the needs for end-to-end visibility. It's clear that customers and your customers and your users, when they experience bad user experience, it has a really bad impact on the business and lead to very dangerous outcomes, both for the organization, for the business, and for everyone who's involved with providing that service. So what the HPE announced 2 months ago is the availability of the Apple Suite for user experience transformation. And the Apple Suite is a solution currently composed of 3 modules, which we'll show in the next slide: Apple's Mobile, Apple's Active, and Apple's Space. But together they provide a full solution with a consistent look and feel, consistent terminology, and consistent user interface to support the user experience transformation, given the importance of user experience in today's digital businesses. The emphasis for the suite is really on intuitive visualization, quick time to value, and very simple interaction and a learning experience for anyone who's starting to use the tool. As traditionally, these type of tools have been very specialized, heavy with data and reports and tables, and we wanted to really make them more accessible, easier to use, and easy to get value from. The next part of the suite is really the interconnections and the end-to-end visibility. So the different modules are seamlessly integrated, and as you'll see in the demo that Dan will show, so you can really connect the dots between what end users are experiencing and the root cause for any problems that they might see, which is key for really improving any user experience issue. And as you'll see in the UI, the user interface is very modern, very sleek, and it's based on really the latest standards and technologies for rich HTML applications. Our backend is actually based on HP Vertica. We'll talk a little bit about the architecture later on. And it's also built for modern applications. So we know that modern applications are evolving much more quickly than the traditional applications. The release cycles are shorter. The type of planning and automation around modern application is significantly different from the traditional ways, the waterfall and kind of handing over the wall, the release bits, and praying that everything will go as planned. So we're built to support these new methods of collaborations between the development team the business team, the operations team, and the testing team to really kind of break the silos and provide a good user experience at the end to the end customers. And last but not least, the Apple solution is integrated with our on-premise OpsBridge and APM solutions. We can share events, and we can still centralize the operational aspects of your IT with the HP toolset that you have today or that your customers have today, with the operations bridge and APM. Both in terms of events and also in terms of data that you might share between the Apples and the on-premise products. We'll be introducing more capabilities around that integration from one release to another. We already have quite a few integrations there. Can you go to the next slide, please? Okay, so again, I mentioned it in high level. Just one more click, thanks. So we have 3 modules as part of the suite today. Apple's Active is the synthetic monitoring capability for proactive and real-time monitoring of websites and mobile applications, leveraging the strength of the, for those who are familiar with the BPM product and the Viewgen technology, we're leveraging the strength and the broad support of the Viewgen protocol for any type of application that you want to monitor. You can monitor it either from our location around the globe or from your own data center. Just put a very simple agent and let it test the application externally and the different services that you want to make sure that are up and running 24/7. Apple's Mobile is a real user experience monitoring solution for really for mobile application, native mobile applications. We're measuring the user experience actually experienced by all of your users under your mobile app. Talk a little bit about that, and we'll see it in the demo as well. And Apple's Trace, which is the focus for this webinar, which was just released 2 months ago, along with the suite, which allows you to track the end-to-end transactions through the service tiers. So we're actually correlating what's happening on the server side. Today we support Java and .NET. We'll be adding more capabilities as we go. .NET is still in beta, with soon to be GA as well. And we're able to really understand where problems happen on the back end, and again connect with the other modules, Apple's Active and Apple's Mobile, for completing the user experience. And I can go to the next slide, please. We did those, so we can skip.
Right, slide 23, I believe.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Okay, thank you. So in order to explain the solution, I would like to kind of take you through a description of a typical enterprise environment, digital enterprise environment. So in our demo, we'll use an online bank, which, as all of us know, the online banking is going through tremendous changes. It was, introduced many years ago, but it evolved over time, mostly focusing on the kind of the websites and how they're allowing you now even to upload checks and do a lot of other more sophisticated transactions to the website. The most significant development in that space was the mobile application. So a lot of customers today use their mobile application, the mobile application provided by their bank, to interact with the bank services, to check their balances, but also to do much more sophisticated transactions like depositing a check. And so what we see here in this case is a typical architecture where the bank has a data center hosted on-premise and also extended to public cloud infrastructure. And a core set of services is providing this data center core set of services providing the APIs are needed for the website and for the mobile application, and those services are shared across the mobile and the web users. So users using the website and users which are using the native mobile application are relying on the same services. If there is a service failure, it might impact both the website and the mobile. But there's also dedicated resources, typically dedicated servers, to support specifically the website and mobile front end. In addition, the bank itself, the services also depend on external APIs. So third parties provide online services to the bank. In some cases, are crucial to provide some of the services, and that's another thing the bank needs to be able to monitor for failures, but also to be able to trace down any problem with external dependencies. And now let's talk about how the engineering team in this bank are monitoring the online banking. Can you go to the next slide, please? One click, okay. So a few more clicks. Thanks. Yes, that's it. So one click back. Thank you. So the bank historically has been using mostly system-level monitoring for their application, using HP Sitescope, which is a great product, to monitor different aspects of the application, and that allows them to detect component failures or services failures, which happen on the system level. But that they figured that it's not enough. While it caught a lot of things and proved useful, in order to really excel with user experience transformation and in order to improve the visibility into user experience issues, they decided to deploy the apppulse suite in their environment and monitoring using that solution. So let's talk about the deployment of apppulse. You can see that apppulse trace, those blue dots sitting on the servers, are actually agents for the different technologies. As I mentioned, we support today Java and .NET, and those servers, those application servers, are constantly monitored using those agents for all the traffic that is getting to those application servers. In addition, you can see blue dots on the desktop on the left-hand side of the screen, where Trace also measures the end-user experience from the browser perspective. So Trace automatically injects some small JavaScript code that runs along with the pages and interact with some browser API to measure the time that it actually takes from the user perspective to load the pages or to interact with the Ajax controls. So we have the full visibility both of the server side and the front end of the end user experience from the browser. apppulse Mobile, as you can see here in some kind of a pink purple color, is deployed using the native mobile app wrapping process. So we have an apppulse Mobile SDK, which is a very, very simple implementation process to add that to your mobile application and to a wrapping process. And then once the application is updated in the App Store, all the users download the updated application. Every user is being monitored when they're using the application. Again, not collecting any private information, just performance and availability and usage information. And all that data, again, is correlated and integrated with apppulse Trace to provide the end-to-end visibility from an end user interacting with the application, swiping, or any other touch gesture with what happens on the back end. And last, apppulse Active, as we see here, it's externally monitoring the service 24/7. It can simulate either mobile users or web users, or it can also simulate API calls used by external services. And so that combined apppulse Mobile, apppulse Active, and apppulse Trace really give the full coverage of the user experience, both for real users and for simulated users. Next slide, please. Thank you. One more click. Okay. So all the data that you saw collected by the trace agents and by the client monitoring in the browsers, by Apple's mobile app, and by Apple's Active is reported to the Apple's cloud. The Apple's cloud internal architecture includes HP Vertica, which is a highly scalable and data warehouse solution, big data warehouse solution that allows us both to scale and also to provide sophisticated analytics at scale based on all the data that we collect, data processing, correlation, and other types of analytics on top of the data. One more click. And Apple's solution is currently hosted on the HP premise. So it's a SaaS solution, which we are planning to also offer on-premise, currently planned for next year. But currently it's a full service. You don't have to worry about deployment, maintenance, backups, and so on. It's all taken care of by HP. And that service, all that data is obviously made available through reports, alerts, and open API to be consumed by different personas. And one more click. And also, as mentioned, that data is integrated with HP Operations Bridge or MI and APM on-premise, both for events and metrics to consolidate the operational aspects in the traditional toolset of HP that integrates with a lot of other solutions, both HP's and other third-party solutions, really to have that single point of control for all operational aspects. And with that, so that's the architecture. With that, let's talk a little bit about what's included in Apple's Trace, and then I'll give the controls to Dan for the actual demo. So one more slide, please. Okay, so in high level, the key features of Apple's Trace, and again, we just released the first release 2 months ago. We're working very agile. We actually have every few weeks another push to production of kind of smaller enhancements and fixes based on customer feedback, getting very good feedback from customers. And we have a lot more coming up this summer, a lot of new content. So definitely, stay tuned for more features. But let's talk about what's included in the current release of production. So very simple onboarding process. So we've put a lot of emphasis on really allowing you to be up and running within a few minutes. A very simple kind of download experience for the agent and deployment experience. The Trace 360 view, which you'll see, is actually a patent-pending visualization and correlation for the information that we collect in Apple's Trace that allows you to quickly pinpoint performance issues, but also to understand the different dimensions, different aspects of the transaction, to pinpoint the problems. And the screenshot that you're seeing here is actually from the Pages screen, which we won't cover in today's demo, but definitely. Please, go back to the slide. Thank you. But as you can see here, the web page and the Ajax monitoring capabilities allow you to understand the real user experience on the web, seeing their load time for the pages, the Ajax response time and failures, and for each such slow request or fail request, you're able to drill down to the server side transaction and investigate why the error took place or what was the root cause for the performance issues pretty quickly. And last but not least, we're using a lot of techniques to correlate information collected from different sources, if it's from the different end user experience sources that are done in the other modules, and different services involved in providing, in fulfilling a request on the back end. All of those aspects need to be correlated through some kind of unique identifiers in order to really know what's going on there. So there's a lot of technology behind the scenes to allow a one-to-one correlation between the user experience and the back end to stitch together different activities different log files, messages, and basically a lot of different dimensions to build one coherent perspective on how the transaction actually behaves in the backend, and to present that to the user in a pretty simple manner. With that, I think we'll switch to the demo, and I think we can go 2 more slides, and I'll give the controls to Dan.
Okay. I believe we have 2 quick polling questions, and we'll move into the demo and then final Q&A. So Terry, if you could do the polling questions. Okay. The first one of the 2, what are the most desired features you are looking for in the product? And this is one where you check all that apply. The 5 choices would be technology support, example Java, .NET, PHP. Second one is analytics, trends. Third one, reporting. Fourth, ease of use. And 5th, ease of installation. So go ahead and take 10 seconds to populate the radio buttons, and we'll read the results. Okay, we got a pretty good percentage of total for the votes. I'm going to read them off. So on the question, what are the most desired features you are looking for in the product? We have the top one is 88% at ease of use. Second place looks to be analytics at 80%. Third place would be 76% for reporting. And then the last 2 would be technology support, and then last, ease of installation. So the panelists, I don't know if you want to make any comments, if this is, again, close to what you see on a daily basis.
Yeah, maybe just a short comment to give time for the demo, but as you can see, the ease of use is the kind of the most requested feature, and that's what we hear definitely across the board. So, and that was the reason we actually came up with Apple's strategy, understanding the new generation of application, a new generation of the workforce as well, requires a very simple, it could be very sophisticated behind the scenes, but the user interface needs to be very simple and guide you to the kind of the problems to find root cause.
Perfect, thank you. Terry, do we have one last final polling question?
I think we can skip that and then go straight to the demo.
Okay. All right. Well, Dan, let's proceed with the demo, and we'll do Q&A. Thanks.
Okay. So just to verify that you guys can hear me.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. So what I'm going to try and show you today is sort of an example of a mobile application troubleshooting where a problem occurs actually on the back end. Okay. For those of you that may have been in one of our previous webinars, you may remember our protagonists. There are Lara, our Android developer, and we have a new guy here now, Jim, who is a summer intern in the Network Monitoring Center. And Jim now is tasked with monitoring the corporate mobile application performance. The application we're monitoring right now is the mobile banking application, and it's one of the most important applications of the company because the majority of consumer banking transactions now perform through this mobile device. Given the dollar value of the transaction passing through it and the brand image it projects, the banks wants to really be notified of any problem with it, whether the problem occurs on the back end or on the consumer device. Let's face it, I mean, the consumer will never care whether the problem is on their device or on the back end as long as they cannot perform their business transaction. So the bank has just rolled out a new version of the application. Jim is watching the dashboard of the mobile application monitored by apppulse, and curious as he is, he decides to do some investigation. So if you notice my screen right now, here is my Advantage mobile application, and he noticed here also that there are actually a number of people with crashes. There's a a Fundex score. The Fundex score is actually something that is a combination of a number of different things. We'll show you in a second. So let me drill into this mobile banking application. Okay, and while it's loading, the Fundex actually computes an index based on the user performance, stability, and resources. And what you'll notice here now is that we have some points taken off for various reasons, performance, stability, and resources. Just for today, Jim is actually going to look at not a crash, but rather at the errors that occur, and that's because I'm trying to also tie it in with the previous conversation about the back-end server errors. So he notices that there are quite a few errors. Okay, so he's going to drill down into the stability of this mobile application, and here on the stability side, we're going to see the number of crashes on and the number of users on a timeline. So how many users were affected during the day, how many failed actions, and so on. So there's a lot of information on the screen. However, we're going to skip down and go to the actions with most errors. So here are a number of actions that were performed by the user on their mobile device. Okay, and then at some point something happened. Okay, we're trying to investigate the problem here. So if you notice here, we have this money transfer action, and on the money transfer action, there have been quite a number of failed hits. So we're going to try and investigate it further. I'm going to drill down into this transaction, and what we're going to see now is probably something that the user might have seen on his mobile device, or potentially a problem. So what you notice here is transaction could be completed. There's an internal server error. Okay, this is a very cryptical message, especially to a user since he doesn't know what to do about it, doesn't really care. However, as Woody mentioned before, when we integrate between mobile and Trace, Trace tags the transactions that are being sent back to the mobile device, and with that tag, we can actually now correlate between what happens on the mobile side and on the Trace side. You'll notice here I have this drill down here, Trace server error, so I'm going to drill down into it. Okay, and this will actually switch context from the context of the mobile application to the context of the backend application that supported what was happening on the mobile side. Okay, so now that transfer money transaction translates now into an internal transaction. Now, keep in mind that what a user says on the front end and what the transactions may be named on the back end may be very different things. Okay, and in this case, we're running into this advantage customer fraud prevention operation. Okay, this operation is made of a couple of subcomponents. What I can also see here at the top are in blue actually the full transaction. So this is the length of the full transaction. If I mouse over it, I get some additional information, the operation name, host, what type of technology was used, and also how long it took. Okay, so what I see here is that transaction itself took, for example, 2.25 seconds, but time spent in the operation itself was only about 630 milliseconds. Okay, the rest was spent in the other component operations, which are an SQL transaction, okay, and another transaction here, which is this fraud assessment. And you notice here it says not traced. Now, the reason for this is that at some point in our operations on the back end, we jump from the transactions that are occurring on our side to some third-party application. So even though I cannot really trace what happens at this third party, I can detect the fact that something went off the reservation and moved actually to a different company. So before we drill down, I mentioned that those are operations. If I drill down now into the operation itself, I can also see let's call it so the code, sort of the various methods that were invoked as part of this operation. So you'll notice here the various methods. each one with their the amount of time that we spend on them and so on. You'll notice here also that I have an external service exception. We're going to go and look at that in a second. And the other thing also is that there is also a query to a database. Okay, so just for the heck of it, let's drill down into this query. And what I see here is basically the actual SQL query. We're hiding out all the parameters because the parameter is not really so important. We don't want to disclose any private information. In this particular case, also, this is a stored procedure. Okay, so we'll calculate a fraud score, but otherwise I could see if it was actually a query, the query name, in this case, the stored procedure name. Okay, so let me go back here to the operation flow. Another thing that if I look at this sort of relatively simple picture of what's going on the back end, I'll notice here also that there is this yellow sign which marks actually where an exception has occurred. So if I mouse over it, I'll see there that I have a HTTP 503. That's usually all the 500 are server-side errors, and it tells me service is unavailable. Okay, so let's drill down now from this code into the actual exception. And you notice here on the left I have an exception tab. I'm going to go to it. Okay, it's summarized. If I want to see the whole exception, I can look at the whole information. At the same time, on the top, I can see also how much time I spent in this operation, the number of exception I had, and what the exception was a 500 status. And the exception itself tells me again, server response 503. And this is actually one of those exceptions that does not provide sufficient information for me to actually troubleshoot it. So I'm going to go one level further into it, and I'm going to go to the log files. So everything that is happening right now is also being logged, and we have the ability now to correlate between the code, the exception, and the log files. So when I go to the log files, okay, I'll notice here again I have the HTTP response 503, service unavailable. However, as I go further down into the logs, I notice also that I was trying to go here to a secondary provider, and I have a invalid missing authentication token. Okay, so it means we were not able to authenticate ourselves to this provider. Now, if I step back for a second, what does this whole thing actually mean? Well, under normal circumstances, the user was trying to perform a money transfer transaction. That money transfer transaction goes also through some external checks to ensure that there is no fraud occurring. I have a number of different providers that allow me to actually validate that transaction is okay. Most of the time I went to my primary provider. As of last night, for whatever reason, the primary provider was down, and the secondary provider is the one that's being accessed. And apparently, I have not really tested my code with the secondary provider because, in this case, I do not have the right authentication. This is now something that I can take back, okay, to my R&D people, and they can actually go and fix the problem. As a matter of fact, what I'm going to do, I'm going to go back to my original mobile application, and here, if you'll notice at the top, I also have an integration with Jira, so that allows me now to open a defect and submit it. The defect has already all the information in it, okay, and I can just click submit, and at this point in time, R&D is going to take over and go to their change management process. Okay, so what I've tried to show you really relatively quickly here is how apppulse Mobile is integrated with Trace, how I can go from a front-end application that occurs on the transaction that occurs on the mobile device to whatever happens on the backside, which is a lot less visible and definitely invisible to the end user. But that correlation between what happens on the front end and the back end allows me now to troubleshoot a back end problem by using Trace, identify it, and then try and fix it as quickly as possible. So, Woody, back to you. I'm pretty much done with this presentation here, and we're pretty short on time.
Okay. Dan, thank you so much. We did run into that technical difficulty earlier, so we apologize. That gives us very little time for questions, so we're going to do a few of them quickly. And just a reminder that the Q&A will be posted on the Vivid website, in a few days, so you can always capture whatever we don't get to. If anybody wanted to take this benefit slide quickly, and then we'll do a couple Q&A.
I think we can let the audience read it while we answer questions. It's pretty straightforward. Let's try to take a few questions.
Okay, cool. I'll pull them up now. Okay, the first question. How does HPE apppulse trace collect data from the user's browsers?
Okay. So if you remember when I discussed the architecture, I've mentioned that the apppulse trace agent actually inject a small JavaScript code snippet into HTML pages that are coming or being served by this server. And that JavaScript code actually runs within every user browser in order to collect performance information about the user experience. So it's measuring the performance and the availability from the user perspective, and that information is served back up to apppulse and is made available in the pages screen, and you can see exactly the end user perspective on the performance, including breakdown into client-side layers such as the time it took to render, the time it took to download, and so on.
Perfect. Thank you.
Question.
Is the apppulse technology available on premise by chance?
Not today. So definitely the trace agents are meant to be deployed on premise or wherever the application is. So definitely can also be deployed in the cloud, and the entire network and communication between the components is agnostic of where the application is. But the apppulse solution itself currently is offered only as a service. As mentioned, we are planning to offer it on-premise next year. But in the meanwhile, you can definitely integrate it with the existing on-premise solution. So if you have APM or OMI by HP, you can definitely integrate apppulse with that.
Awesome. I know Eric's not on the call. Can we field this question? It's asking about apppulse trace pricing, how that works.
Yes, I can talk to that. In high level, apppulse trace pricing is based on OS instance. So the number of OS instances that you're monitoring using apppulse trace agents. If you have multiple application servers, multiple Java processes on the same operating system instance, will we only be counting it once? So we know that that's for some customers it's a very very attractive pricing model.
Okay, we're at the top of the hour, and I know a lot of folks have to get on to their next project or lunch. So we're going to kind of do wrap up, and we can go to the next slide, please.
Yeah, and I think we have some customer testimonials here. We can definitely check out and I think probably in the next slide. Check out the apppulse trace webpage. There are a lot of resources, a lot of nice how-to videos that show you the different features of the product. Very simple to digest, just a few minutes. It shows you exactly how the product works and how it looks like, an extension of the demo that Dan just showed us. So take a look, and we'll be very happy for you to take a trial. It's free of charge, and contact us if you have any questions and if you want a more detailed demonstration. With that, Jim, I think we can wrap up.
Thank you. Next slide, please. It should be okay. The thank you slide. So thank you, everyone. Just a quick reminder, the Discover Conference, everybody's probably heard about it 50,000 times in their inbox, but it is in a week and a half, and if you haven't signed up, there still is a Vivid discount of $300 available almost up to the end before the conference kicks in. So please definitely register if you can make it, and you'll see quite a bit of apppulse content at the conference via some of the sessions as well as the demo center. So come on over. And last slide, please.
If I can just quickly put also another comment. I'm running a hands-on lab actually, so if anybody wants to actually get their hands dirty with appulse, Trace Mobile, and Active, there are some sessions that we're running at Discover.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, and after this is over, you'll get in your inbox a quick survey. Please don't beat us up too much because of the technical difficulty, but please fill out that short survey, and you have an opportunity to opt in to receive additional information from HP Enterprises. So with that, I'm going to conclude. Thanks, everyone, for joining. And again, you'll see this in a few days. You'll see an email where you can kind of get the archive, the Q&A, the slides, et cetera, et cetera. So have a great day and a great evening. Thank you. Bye-bye.